There are certain photographs that don't just capture light, they capture the exact moment something breaks. This one did. At first glance, it's an ordinary frame, two people, a laugh that looks almost careless, eyes that seem to know too much. But for Can Yaman, this is the photo that still presses against his chest like a weight he cannot lift. The photo that reminds him of the love he lost forever. He kept it hidden for years. Not because he was ashamed of what it showed, but because of what it brought back, how loud a memory can become when it's trapped in silence. You would think time dulls this kind of thing. That waking up in new cities, memorizing new lines, and smiling beneath new lights would sand the edges down. It didn't. If anything, success made the echo sharper. The more the world loved him, the more he remembered the one person he wanted to be small with, invisible with, unguarded with. The picture wasn't staged. That's the part that hurts him the most. It wasn't for a magazine spread or a scene. It was a moment they accidentally gave to a lens. He's not even looking at the camera, he's looking at her. And she's looking down, that half-smile curving like a secret they hadn't yet told the world. People think a great love is fireworks. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it's the quiet after, the breath you didn't know you were holding, the soft "stay a little longer" said without a word. He remembers the day it was taken. He had arrived late, hair still damp from a rushed shower, the kind he always took when he wanted to wash a mood off his skin. She teased him for it, called him dramatic under her breath and then laughed like she was letting him get away with something. Someone in the room said, "Hey, over here," and a shutter clicked just once. He didn't even notice. He was too busy memorizing the way her shoulder leaned into him as if her body had made a decision before her mind could argue. If the story ended there, the photo would be a keepsake. But it didn't. That was the beginning of the slow unraveling, days layered with obligations, nights smudged with misunderstandings, and the quiet pressure of being looked at by strangers who thought they knew what they were seeing. They were good together in rooms where nobody else existed. They were clumsy together anywhere that did. He thinks about all the times he could have said more, asked less, waited longer, held tighter. Love isn't logical when it's happening. You think it's infinite. You think there will be one more conversation at 2 a.m., one more, "Are you hungry?" at dawn, one more, "Let's get out of here," just because the noise in the room is louder than the noise in your heart. There wasn't. One day the questions stopped sounding hopeful and started sounding like accusations. One day love sat down between them and refused to move. The break itself is a blur, as most breaks are. No dramatic scene on a rainy street. No grand betrayal to pin the pain on. Just a gradual cooling, the kind that makes you doubt your own memory. Was it always this quiet? Was it always this far? He remembers a final conversation that wasn't meant to be final. He remembers the way she looked at the floor when he spoke, the way he talked in circles like he was trying to reason with a storm. He hates that part of himself, the part that argues when what he really wants to say is "please don't go." After that, work swallowed him whole. Projects, flights, interviews, haircuts, scripts. People told him he was glowing. He smiled because that's the easiest lie to sell. And at night he'd unlock his phone and let the photo find him. Not every night. Just the nights when the air was too still and his apartment felt like a museum of things he didn't want anymore, the glass he never put away, the jacket that still smelled like a city he swore he had forgotten, the silence that knew his name. He kept the image in a hidden album with a name that meant nothing, notes, archive, untitled. He told himself he wasn't hiding it, just putting it somewhere safer. He told himself it was kinder this way, he wouldn't stumble onto it by accident, he wouldn't bleed on a Tuesday afternoon. But the truth is, he went looking for it when he wanted to be honest. When he wanted to remember what being real felt like before cameras taught him how to pose with his eyes. There was a night, he doesn't like to admit this, when he almost deleted it. His finger hovered and everything in him said yes. Yes, because you're tired. Yes, because moving on is easier when you burn the bridge. Yes, because she's doing fine and you should too. He didn't. Instead, he turned the phone face down and sat there in the dark like a child who had just been spared some punishment. He slept badly, woke up early, ran farther than he needed to, and told himself he was stronger. He didn't look at the photo again for a month. People will ask why today. Why reveal it now, after all this time, after new headlines, new miles, new routines? He will say he's not revealing it, life is. He will say he's not making a statement, he's simply done hiding. He will say he owes the truth nothing, but he owes himself mercy. And mercy sometimes looks like letting the world see you exactly as you were before you learned how to look like you don't care. The morning it surfaced, he was calm in that strange way a person can be before a storm. They mistake the silence for safety. A message came in, someone had found it in a backup, a cloud, a forgotten folder. There was no malice in the text. No threat. Just a link and a line, "Is this you?" He clicked. There it was. Not filtered, not cropped, not edited. Her shoulder leaning into him. His mouth halfway to a smile he never quite learned to control around her. The timestamp like a wound that had finally remembered how to bleed. His first instinct was to shut it down, to call, to ask, to erase. There are ways to smother a story. There are ways to make a thing disappear. But he didn't move. He watched it load again and again, the way you check a door you know you already locked. He felt the strangest thing settle over him, not panic, not shame, not even sorrow. Acceptance. This happened. This mattered. And hiding it hadn't healed anything. He thinks of what the world will say, because he has trained himself to anticipate that chorus. They'll read too much into the tilt of his head, too little into the softness of her laugh. They'll divide into teams, as if love were a sport you can win by being loud. He doesn't mind. Let them. The photo is not a scandal, it is a fact. Two people were in love. They were careless with time. They believed the future would be patient. It wasn't. What the photo can't show is what came after, the quiet ways grief learns your schedule. The coffee you drink slower because you're trying to fill the hour you used to spend on the phone. The shirt you refuse to throw away because its fabric remembers a night you don't want to forget. The street you avoid for a year because the air there is shaped like her name. This is not melodrama. This is how lost lives when you are famous and everyone thinks they are a witness to your heart. He wonders if she has a copy. He wonders if she ever looks. He allows himself exactly 3 seconds to picture her in a different city, in a different morning, typing a passcode with hands that are steadier than his. He tells himself it doesn't matter. He tells himself he is not the first man to be undone by a memory that refuses to grow old. He tells himself he has changed. He has. Change is not the same as forgetting. There is a part of him that hopes she never sees the noise. That if this image makes its way to her, it arrives quietly, without the commentary, without the captions, without the strangers who don't know that soft things can be heavy. He hopes she remembers the smallness of that room, the warmth that needed no announcement. He hopes she forgives him for not being better at the parts of love that require surrender. People ask what he would tell his younger self now. He would say, take more photographs, but not for proof. For prayer. He would say, when you love someone, tell them on ordinary days, in ugly light, with a voice that shakes. He would say, you can have the whole world and still miss the one table where you learned how to listen. He would say, the camera never lies, but it doesn't tell the whole truth either. When the image finally began to spread, he did a small thing first. He sat at the edge of his bed and placed his phone on the floor, screen up, like a lantern. Sunrise came slow. He let it. He breathed, counted, whispered her name once, not as a call, but as a blessing. Then he picked up the device and wrote the only words that felt clean, yes. It's real. It was a good day. The message was not for the press. It was for himself. A way of letting go without pretending the loss had no shape. You cannot deny a thing you have already blessed. He posted nothing else. No long captions. know what really happened. The photo doesn't need a defense. It has its own gravity. People looked, argued, celebrated, mourned, moved on. He didn't. Not right away. He went for a walk, the kind he used to take with a baseball cap low and his hands in his pockets, and he let the city be loud around him. He bought a coffee he didn't finish. He watched a dog pull its owner down the street and laughed out loud because some things are relentlessly alive. In the days that followed, he met eyes he had avoided and let them stay. Some friends asked questions. He answered the easy ones and left the hard ones where they belonged, in the quiet. He worked, because work is both anchor and ocean, and he needed to feel the tide. At night he slept without the old ritual of unlocking the hidden album. He didn't need to look anymore. The world had it now. Strangely, that made the image lighter. There is a freedom in being known, even if what is known is your most fragile memory. He doesn't believe in closure the way people use the word, as if grief were a file you can archive once you've named it correctly. But he does believe in relief. He felt it the first time he realized a week had passed and the photo no longer arrived like a wave. He felt it when he heard her name in a cafe and his body didn't flinch. He felt it when he found a sweater at the back of a drawer and didn't have to sit on the floor to breathe through it. Some nights, a different kind of memory comes, one that doesn't ache. He sees the two of them on a balcony where the city looked like a necklace of tired lights. He sees her turn to him and say something ordinary, like "You're not listening," and he grins because she's right. He wasn't. He was memorizing her, the way people do when they know, even if they don't admit it, that certain moments will ask to be carried a long time. He forgives that version of himself for not knowing how to hold what he loved without crushing it. He forgives the man who came after for pretending strength looked like forgetting. This is not a love story that returns to the beginning. Not all endings are invitations. Some are instructions: keep going. He has. He will. But the photograph remains, no longer hidden, no longer weapon, no longer test. Just a fact. A tender, unarguable fact about who he was when loving her felt like the most honest thing he had ever done. If you see the image now, you will not know everything, and that is right. You will see a laugh that didn't have time to learn its lesson. You will see a man who hadn't yet learned how to protect a good thing from the weight of being watched. You will see a woman bent slightly toward him, making room with her body for a future that would not arrive. You will not see the slow undoing or the quiet bravery it took not to erase the proof that it had been real. He doesn't hide the photo anymore. He doesn't parade it either. He lets it live where it always belonged, in the catalog of moments that teach you who you are. When he thinks of her now, he doesn't rush to shut the door. He lets the thought cross the room and open a window. The air is different after. Lighter. He is grateful for that. And if you ask him why the world is seeing it today, he will tell you the simplest truth he knows, because the things that matter don't stop mattering when you stop saying their names. Because love that ended is still love that happened. Because sometimes the only way to carry a memory is to stop pretending it weighs nothing. The photo that reminds him of the love he lost forever has finally stepped into the light. He stands beside it without armor. Not as a man trapped in yesterday, but as a man who has learned the most private kind of courage, the courage to be seen exactly as he was, and to keep walking.